To hit with power in boxing is a fine science. It is a sophisticated art form designed to inflict damage. To truly understand punching with power, we need to better understand two things: body mechanics and physics. These are important if you want to understand how to hit with bad intentions. The goal I place on my students is for them to learn how to use the ground to their advantage. This means they must understand movement in relation to the ground. It is best summed up with these following qualities: rooted in the feet, powered by the core, reflected in the arms, manifested in the hands. Every movement is expressed from the ground upward. Therefore, the quality of a punch is a reflection of the quality of being rooted. The way that the force is imparted into the ground is where all punching power begins. I begin with a solid base. I ignite my jab with my rear foot. Force is generated here, from the ground up, finally accumulating into my left fist as it lands on the punching bag. Before we begin discussing muscle movement, let's understand a little bit about Newton's second law of motion. That is, acceleration is produced when a force acts upon an object. And adding to this, an object accelerated toward another object creates force on impact. The greater the force acting on an object creates more acceleration. More acceleration creates more force on impact. Since I can't change my body weight, what I can do is increase the acceleration, the speed at which my body's mass is propelled towards its target. To create force, I must move my body forward. To do this, I engage the prime muscle movers, those muscles needed to deliver the punch. Turn off the antagonistic muscles, relaxing those muscles that would hinder my movement. Engage guiding and stabilizing muscles to rule out and control undesired action. If all this is done successfully, means speed in punching. Delving a little deeper into the body mechanics, a stretched muscle can exert more force than a contracted one. This is what is referred to as the eccentric loading phase. This is why a basketball player squats down slightly to load up his quads to contract, bringing them into action, helping him propel the ball toward the hoop. It is best visualized like an elastic band. An elastic band stretched out under tension will produce more force than one that is not. I do a similar thing to the basketball player, however it is more subtle, unnoticed except to the trained eye. I begin the jab by loading up the muscle in my rear leg. I raise the heel of my rear foot. It puts tension on my calf muscles. I sink slightly and stretch out my quads. I have just completed the eccentric loading phase. This preloading the muscles allows me to explode my body forward, propelling my body mass faster toward the target. I engage my core, my pectoral muscles, and then my triceps snap into action. Then I reverse the process, returning to the guard position. An understanding of muscle function helps to understand how to produce force in one's punch. The faster you can accelerate your body toward your target, the harder you will be able to hit. I used my muscles to overcome gravity to propel my body forward. Yet, as I complete my punch, I use gravity's force to my advantage. Newton's first law of motion states that an object in motion will stay in motion going in the same direction unless acted upon by another force. I throw the ball. The ball wants to keep going in the same direction, but gravity pulls it back to Earth. I am like the ball. I overcome gravity for a split second, then I fall back to Earth. Instinctively, I know when my body's mass will be brought back to Earth, so as I land back on the ground, my punch hits its target. Kinetic energy of an object is the energy that it possesses due to its motion. Since my body is in motion, using both my muscle movement propelling my body's mass forward and a secondary force, gravity pulling me back to Earth, helps increase the transfer of my kinetic energy on impact. In this case, the transfer of my energy into the punching bag. Here you can see I step in. My body is shifted forward. This helps increase the mass, the weight, behind my rear cross. It must not be confused with leaning. Leaning means to shift the body's weight to the front leg. Propelling the body forward, creating momentum, is one way to increase the force on impact. There is one more aspect of hitting that needs to be mentioned. To truly understand how I propel my fist into its target, we need to understand centrifugal force. In basic terms, centrifugal force is the energy of an object trying to go in a straight line when it cannot. The best example is the water in a bucket experiment. However, the best way to understand centrifugal force and punching is by drawing an analogy with that of a catapult. A catapult hurls a rock through the air by using centrifugal force. The rock constantly wants to go in a straight line, yet the centripetal force, the force that is necessary to keep an object moving in a curved path that is directed inward toward the center of rotation, keeps the rock moving in a curved line. Once it is released from its centripetal force, the rock is propelled forward in a straight line, that is until gravity takes over. Delivering a straight punch, such as a jab or cross, we can use centrifugal force to accelerate our fist through the air towards its target, just like a catapult. Here I rotate my hips. If I was to keep my fist pulled inward towards my center of my body, then I would be doing something like this. A hook. Instead, for straight punches at the right moment, when my hips and core have developed enough centrifugal force, I release my punching fist to fling forward toward the bag, much like the catapult does by propelling a rock towards the castle wall. If you look at this movement again, you can see by stepping forward, creating momentum, and the centrifugal force of my hip and arm combined, this is like rolling a catapult forward while the rock is released. This equals more force on impact. I can do this also for the jab. Adding centrifugal force results in a large increase in linear velocity in your punching arm. More acceleration means, of course, an increase in force on impact. Combine this with the body's forward moving momentum and you have a powerful punch. In summary, to punch hard you must use the ground, create momentum, use correct and highly skilled muscular movement, create small circles of centrifugal force, and borrow gravity's force. And you must be able to do all this in 1/10 of a second, while at the same time having a keen sense of balance, sense of distance, sense of timing, while of course not getting hit by your opponent, and much more. From this perspective, the skill of boxing is anything but easy to master. Regardless of the type of hitting I do, I use some or all of these elements to produce force on impact. As a coach, the challenge has been to develop particular training methods, body mechanic drills that build up a new student's ability to use all these elements of force, so they too can learn to hit hard, to the fullest of their genetic ability. When I give a new student my body mechanic drills to practice, and I tell them these movements will teach you how to hit hard, I am not just offering my personal opinion. Instead, I'm using science to create individuals who can punch with bad intentions.